Short cob, Katram C, Gunny Mork.
Fancy intro music, yeah! Woo!
Welcome back. We're gonna be talking about officers today, and hopefully you enjoyed that little video we put out, the little intro with a little bit of a hint. If you catch what that was a hint. And if you've got good detective skills, you can figure out what's coming in the next battle pass. Or maybe you won't. I mean, if you really want to know like 20 hours ahead of time, do your detective work. Can't wait to see who can guess it. But we're going to talk about a very important issue, in my opinion, in the game right now concerning officers, and using some just different data that people like Gregor put together, but also talking with players just across the game for not just months, but years at this point, as we're starting to notice a pattern. Now, had some great conversations with Fitch over on 43, but also several other players just in the past few days of how, even talking to DJ, just some things need to change with officers. And what I'm talking about specifically, and I'll put some of it up on the screen, but you see my officers in the background. And when we sort by group, you see the OGs, the original officers in the game, and you see the immediate balance with that. 3 uncommons, 3 rares, 1 epic. Cool. Technically, I think uncommons should outnumber rares, but at least there was some balance there. Next group, 3, 3, 1, 3, 3, 1, 3, 2, 1. So you see, well, it's still 3, 3, 1. Never mind. I forgot about Curon over there. Still, you saw a pattern of what you could expect looking into the future, I guess, of hopefully looking into the future of what you would see with officers in general. That's simply not been the case for us, as we have seen, where now we have officers from several different varieties all coming through. But most of them, in terms of varieties, meaning different like factions and things like that, but most of them, as this chart you're about to see will show, are rare. There's very little balance. Now, a couple of corrections on here, just a note real quick. 2 of 10 takes 7 science badges, not 3, and 9 of 10 takes 3 tac badges, not 1. There's a couple things I want to talk about in this video. One, as you can see in the little totals box there, we need way more tactical / command badges or command badges in the game than you need anything else. So we have a very, very heavy favor onto command. Now, I do agree, and I was having this discussion with DJ, that you should have to prioritize officers. You shouldn't just necessarily be able to take any of these and just easily max them out, because anything that's rare or epic and even uncommon are going to require badges. And that's fine. I get that. I'm not worried about that at all. But I do think there should be a balance in that, where you're able to at least know, I need this badge, and this badge, equal amounts. Now, I will go ahead and note, I always try to give credit where it's due. We do have the refinery now with the discovery, where you can get some of these minor commendation badges, which we then can take to a faction store. So I'm just going to pull up my Federation faction store real quick, and you can see 840 will give me a command badge. So there is a way to start sourcing these slowly in the game, and through time you get more and more. The battle pass is also paid out quite a few, but you can source them this way. So they have given a way to slowly procure the commendation badges you need, but still it's not a very fast track. Oh, there's also the, I'm sorry, I forgot these. I need to mention these. This is taking it back old school if you still have some of these laying around. But the loyalty boxes, it's loyalty box 2 4s with the even numbers. Let me look. Is it this one? Yes. So the even number loyalty boxes, which are one-time redeems, also have badges in them for all 3 factions. So there are ways to procure them, but you need so many, as you can see with this screenshot. You need a total of, especially if you add in the ones that we missed, 189 command badges / tac badges. Tactical fell under command in the next generation, if you're wondering why that's laid out like that. And then you've got the science badges a little bit higher, but still you're seeing mostly a command focus. But I think the biggest issue that we're running into, and this happens to a lot of games, and we've talked about it in live streams, is power creep. Now, if you're not familiar with the term power creep, it is a term used in games, whether card games, video games, whatever, where as the game progresses, they're releasing new content, and that content naturally gets stronger to surpass the old. Now, I don't necessarily think that that's required in Star Trek Fleet Command. I really don't. But here's an example of power creep. Let's go all the way down to the bottom. Look at these officers here. This is all the TNG and the new stuff coming out. We have yet to have we've yet to have an uncommon come out in 2 months or 2 iterations now of ARC. So we've got Duality, TNG, no uncommons. Now, an argument will be made that the Basically, the cadet replacements were 5 common officers, but like I said, those are just cadet replacements. They literally the exact same as the cadets from the original launch of the game. So if you take those 5 characters and you compare them to these up here, the Cadet Kirk, the Cadet McCoy, the Cadet Scotty, they're literally identical carbon copies with the next gen. So I don't really count those. There's no uncommons though for any iteration. Oh, go back to the TOS crew. No uncommons there. You have to go back to the Discovery crew before we get some uncommons again with Arium, Culber, Tilly, Origins Burnham, who's not even useful. And even the Borg had uncommon. We now are getting into the stage where they're not keeping the game balanced. And as you can see by this screen, the main one, look at this. Look at just the pure numbers. Obviously more rare officers than there are any other type, which kind of goes against the whole name. Rare. They're not rare at all. And what's making this worse is rare and epics obviously take more shards. There's several things that need to happen here. One, I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so we can talk about the rares. One, I think that the main thing that needs to happen is we need to scale back on how we're releasing officers. And then we need to focus on the abilities of officers and making officers more useful in terms of actually giving them applications. As I was talking to Fitch, we both agreed that, hey, uncommons in the game, for the most part, have almost no purpose. Past level 39, you will still maybe, I'm being very maybe here, use Zhao if he's maxed. You will maybe use Severus for very specific things, maybe. You're probably never going to use 9 of 10 anymore. You're not going to use Morale, that's for sure. Definitely never use the Montgomery Scott. There's a purpose for Lancaster, but not really. Claw, maybe for a speed build. Culber for your discovery jump. And Chin until you start doing level 52 hostiles. Ellie and Mackinnon for mining. DJ Oki. So what, we're at 6 total. Basically, most of these all fall off. And even then, the ones I named are mostly specific uses for like one thing. Like Culber is just for synergy and for getting discovery or taxi costs down. That's it. That doesn't actually have any real application besides just helping the USS Uber get us throughout the galaxy, which I guess is fine to an extent. But what we need to really do is start re-emphasizing the game, because here's the problem. If we continue to allow power creep to press on, here's what's going to happen. You've got to stop going with rares and epics. You'll start filling it out too much, and then you've got to make something new, a legendary, a mythic. And here's the problem with that. Most players in the game are not able to accrue these shards needed to max out most of these officers anyway. Who amongst the free-to-play have a maxed out TOS Kirk, which is one of the best PvP officers in the game? Even with Giorgio made easier to, grab now. Who has her max? Not a lot of people. Already it's difficult to max out many of these officers. And if we start going to the next tier where we can go to, say we add tiers to them and now there's tier 6 officers, or we're adding mythic or legendary officers that have 5 traits on them. We're power creeping to a point where we're leaving most of the game behind, because the average player in 3 years still has not maxed out all their epic officers. Sure, I'm not saying that people who've been playing since the beginning of the game as free to play don't have epic maxed officers. Yeah, they probably do, like Gorkon and Kirk and stuff like that. But we're talking about the game as a whole, where you see now Honor Guard Worf, Sela, 2 epics, Tomalak, rare, officers coming this month, probably not changing what we've had the past 3 arcs. You look at this strategy that they've really been implementing, and it goes against the balance of the game, and it goes against the balance of the average player. And I think the 2 ways to fix this is, 1, return to using uncommons and make uncommon abilities not only more useful, but also more diverse. Not the same cookie cutter type stuff we've done, like with the new Borg. And I don't mind the new Borg miners, but they're literally just the original miners buffed up to where their tier 1 is equal to the original max. That's power creep. Now it makes sense because they're Borg, but overall we don't need that in the game. Another thing that could be really helpful that they should look at, and this has been suggested by others before, is to reinforce the importance of synergy in the game by making it have more of a value than just increasing a captain's ability. For example, let's say, hey, we just added cloaking here. We know Romulans love cloaking. They invented cloaking. Let's say that if you ran a full Romulan crew on a Romulan ship, you got some form of bonus to cloaking. Maybe the duration lasted twice as long. Maybe you were able to re-cloak immediately. Maybe there was something that synergy, you running a full Romulan crew would give you a bonus and incentivize you to actually use that crew. And there are Romulan crews you could use. For example, take the Augur. We could run Sharvanik, DJ Aoki, and Nero. Why not? Why not? All Romulans, all listed as Romulans. See, we click on Nero. Hey, Nero's crew. What is he? Romulan Star Empire faction. So if we did all of this, then we could then give a reason to run all the older officers without having to simply implement new, better officers. Simply expanding the idea of how we approach officers in the game. Maybe if we had a full Federation crew on an interceptor or something, or Federation crew on an explorer, it would get additional warp range because of synergy. Maybe on a Klingon, it would have additional warp speed or something, or additional impulse speed. All these things that could be done by simply taking existing mechanics and expanding around the technology in them. And this, of course, might mean that they need to update their game. That's not my problem. That's their problem. But adding depth to officers is definitely better than simply power creeping them along to where we run to a point where we either have more rares than anything else, or we get to a point where the average player can no longer be used or have useful officers because they can't simply get them fast enough as they're coming out, which is a problem now. You simply can't get most of these quick enough to have true value, even though some of them are good immediately, like Honor Guard Worf. Well, I want to know what you think about officers in the game and what path you think officers should take. And if you have ideas for how you think the officers can be improved and how you think that the system as a whole can be better, I want to hear it down below. Little box right there. All you gotta do is leave your comment down, and if it's a good one and people upvote it, we share it with the dev team, maybe it turns into something in the game that makes the game better. Because this is probably my favorite part of the game. Officers, how they work, going through the math, and just nerding out. But at the same time, it's getting harder and harder to enjoy them, the average player, because people come to me saying, hey, can I run this crew? Not if it's tier 1, not if it's tier 2. You gotta have it max, you gotta have it better. We don't really want that. Even the brand new Officer Tomalak, that secondary ability, that officer ability, needs to be maxed because it's an anti-faction of officer, which I love that we have. Anti-faction officers are very, very good. That's an anti-faction officer. You know, you need those. They really help out even at higher levels. But what do you think we should do with the game? Like the video if you did. Smash this button. Looks like this. Subscribe if you have not already. Live long and prosper. Stay safe with the Space Cowboys. Can't wait to be with you on the new update. See what you got to say. And deuces, that's me. We outie. We'll catch you on the next one. Toodaloos.
An even better outro than the intro. For the Empire and glory to your house.